Permanent residency isn't in your pocket just yet, and it's extremely important that you take the next steps very seriously. In this video, my immigration lawyer and I will explain the post-invitation to apply process so that you can maximize your ITA and eventually get to your permanent residency. Important, if you haven't received your ITA yet, watch the first part of this video here and learn how to get it. First of all, what does an ITA look like? It confirms you got invited to apply, mentions the immigration stream, and breaks down your score. Pay attention to what Erica had to say about it.
If you're not able to support the full score that you received, what IRCC is going to do is they're basically going to change your score when they're evaluating your application based on the documents that are available to them at the time, based on what you have submitted. You have to make sure that if your score is lower, as long as it is above what it would have needed to be for that draw. So let's say the cutoff for this draw was 500 and this individual has a score of 518 and their score gets adjusted based on the documents they provided and it gets bumped down to a 481. At that point, what the agent's gonna say is, well, if this is what you had put in your express entry profile, you would not have been selected in that draw. Therefore, your application is going to be refused. So you have to be very careful in making sure that you accurately support the score that you are presenting to IRCC and claiming to have. Any additions, if something else happens after you create your profile, which actually increases your score, that's okay. The big focus is on any decreases and making sure that in any world you would have been, with any documents, you would have been selected as part of the draw that you were picked in.
So it's important to understand that the inability to support your application can lead to you losing PR. Now that you understand all of that, a logical question is, what do you need to do after receiving an ITA?
Now we're gathering all the documents to support your express entry score. Some documents do take some more time, like police certificates, for instance. So depending on your situation, how many countries you have to request one from, you might want to start thinking about that. Other documents you're going to want to think about are, updating documents that you previously had on file when you were preparing your express entry profile, additional pages of your passport, stamps, visas. You want to make sure that you're also considering your dependents. So any dependents that you're including as part of your application, we're going to want their documents, passport copies, birth certificates, marriage certificates, showing that you are truly a family and you're all eligible to apply together. Keeping in mind, in the back of your mind, we're always thinking about our score. So we're thinking about the different categories and what documents we're providing to support each category. Another category, education. Depending on your specific, situation, if you've completed a degree inside Canada, it's a little bit easier. You don't need an educational credential assessment report. So we're just going to be providing diploma, certificate, transcripts, foreign education, educational credential assessment report. Other factors, language test. So now is the time where we're going to be actually uploading your language test report with your results. Other documents we want to think about depending on your specific situation. If you're in a common law relationship, there's going to be a lot of documents that are going to be added to support your relationship.
Important, what if your family situation changes? You got married or had kids? Here's what IRCC says exactly. Family members can be added to the application at any time during the process, including after the visa is issued, but prior to obtaining permanent resident status. When an applicant adds a family member to their application after the online PR application, the family member will have to be assessed and the principal applicant must provide IRCC with the additional family information form, IMM 5406, and pay the applicable fees online.
And now we move on to work experience, arguably the most important part. So there's two types of work experiences that we're handling, and one is Canadian and the other is foreign work experience. For both work experiences, you want to make sure that you have reference letters. You're also going to want to include a copy of any employment agreement that you have, any taxation documents showing, source deductions, showing that you were, treated as an employee. A very, very important document though is payslips, proof of payment, because at the end of the day, for any work experience, Canadian or foreign, it qualifies because it is a paid work experience. So proving that you were compensated for your work is extremely important. When we're talking about Canadian experience, it's a little bit easier because you're likely going to be able to provide some Canadian taxation documents. So we're going to show your notice of assessments. We're going to show your T4 statements, valid job offer, so arranged employment. That's where that employment agreement and letter is going to come into play. Depending on your situation, you might also have a positive labor market impact assessment. So you're going to want to make sure you include a copy of that because we want to prove that your job offer is in fact valid under the definition of the express entry system. Immigration documents, you're going to want to include all of them. Yes, IRCC has them on file, but we want to make their lives easy, right? So let's include everything, copies of your TRVs, copies of your permits, previous permits, anything.
Now let's get the exclusive sneak peek into what that actual portal looks like. Where do we include everything you've just mentioned?
Okay, so here is your exclusive sneak peek. So this is what a permanent residence application looks like on the online portal.
The holy grail of every immigrant.
And I have some good news for you. Some of the work has actually already been done for you. And what I mean by that is all of the time and effort that you spent creating your express entry profile, countless hours inputting all of that information, it automatically gets taken from your express entry profile and put into your permanent residency application. Now we're going in and we are triple checking everything. We're adding any information that is not already there. So as part of the PR application, there are some additional slots that are going to open up, some more information that you have to include that you didn't need to include as part of the profile. Personal history is going to be a new section. So that's where we're going to include basically your whole life story. So we want to know everything, education, work, but we're also filling in all of the gaps. So here is where exactly you're going to basically include all of your personal history. And so if you look at all of these dates, I know there's a lot of dates, but if you really took some time and looked at them, you'll notice that there actually are some gaps. And so IRCC is not going to accept this. They want to know everything. They want you to fill in all of the gaps. And even if it was a period of unemployment, that's fine. If it was a period of travel, that's okay. But you have to include it as its own section to make sure that there are no gaps in time. Contact details, same idea, no gaps in time. We want to make sure you have every single address that you've been living in. Even if you've been hopping from Airbnb to Airbnb, you put every single one in there.
Speaking of address, IRCC made some updates to the Express Entry portal. If you have an Express Entry profile that's in the pool right now, make sure to log in to check all of your Canadian addresses. It's important that you add the relevant postal codes. If you don't do this, your profile might be deactivated. So this is the wild card. This is when there's so many documents that you need to upload. I see there's 5 police certificates, employment records, there's like 7 of them.
Remember that this is going to look very, very different depending on your specific situation. This is pulling all of the information that we've uploaded in this profile and in this application, and it's saying, okay, so I see you've lived in, 5 different countries for more than 6 months in the past 10 years. Well, you need a police certificate for every single one of those countries. I see, we've put in work experience. This individual has quite a lot of work experience, a lengthy work history, and so we have to provide records to support every single one of those work experiences.
And Erica, for work experience, what's the formula? Do we provide a PDF merged with payslips, tax documents, and job offer? Those are the 3 keys.
Exactly. So you want to make sure everything's merged. We only have 1 slot per employment experience. So we're going to merge them, organize them, put them into that section, and exactly whatever you have available, the more the better. You want to include everything that you possibly have. If you can't and you're missing something, that's where some creativity comes into play, and that's something that we can work with you to see what other documents we can possibly include to fill, to bridge some gaps where there's some documents missing. A recent update has come into play, and so now this medical exam is actually no longer required upfront, meaning that you can submit your application and then you will get a request from IRCC with instructions to go and complete your medical exam. Use of representative form, this is only because this is being submitted through my authorized representative portal. If you are
So if a lawyer submits it, you need to provide that.
Exactly, a lawyer or a registered immigration consultant, but you want to make sure that this is completed. But if you are applying through your own portal, you're not going to have a use of representative form.
Optional documents, I see it. The good old client information. That's an essential piece of proof. And that's everything that you couldn't put inside your application in supporting documents. Am I right?
Exactly. It's the catch-all category. And it's also the category where you're going to want to include any letters that you want to provide to IRCC, whether it's a letter of explanation, perhaps explaining, some missing documents or anything within your application that you feel deserves a detailed explanation, or whether it's just a personal letter explaining your situation, talking to IRCC, telling them about yourself and why you would be the ideal candidate for express entry. Where we come in here is that if you decide to work with us, you're going to get a personalized representative submission letter from me to IRCC. It's going to be very detailed, breaking down the letter in sections based on your application. We're going to break down every factor, what exactly we are providing to support your score, who you are as a person, and why you would be the ideal person to become Canada's next permanent resident.
And a lawyer gives extra confidence to IRCC, I guess.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, when an agent picks up an application and they see that a third-party representative worked on the file and, worked with the client to make sure that everything's organized, the package is complete. That's very important. We're providing everything. Everything's been verified, triple checked, organized, laid out, very easy for the agent to read and review. I think that it definitely does, it adds something to an application, absolutely. And then we see below the fees. They're quite expensive. So as you can see, this is a pretty big application. There's a lot invested here. And so you want to make sure that everything that you're providing, this is it.
Let's be frank, a lot is on the line. It's your life. You've been in Canada, most likely. You've gone through a lot, spent a lot of money. So you need to make sure everything you submit is right. And once you do upload all those files, there's going to be that magical button to continue to make the payment, and that's it. You send off the application. Can you make any changes after that, Erica?
Unfortunately, you can't make any changes on the portal, but you do have to keep IRCC up to date. So if there are any changes that do happen after you submit your application, you are going to want to communicate through a web form. Send a web form to IRCC, provide any additional, documentation, any updates, changes you want to let them know about. It's very, very important in your application and during processing to be completely honest upfront with IRCC. You don't want to hide anything. You don't want anything kind of coming back later on, and impacting your future and your chance of becoming a PR. So just keep that in mind. Honesty really is the best policy.
PR gives you certainty. It allows you to keep building your success here in Canada. And there's no mistakes that you should make with this important application. Having an immigration lawyer review your file is the best investment in your immigrant life. Therefore, I highly recommend you hit the first link in the description of this video, book that consultation, and see where you want to go next. If you got some value out of this video, please let me know in the comments. And if you want to learn about our first in Canada AI tool that's supposed to help you get PR, watch this video next where I explain exactly how it works.